Welcome to Beerstories from Beerstory Brewhouse. In this video, I'll give you 5 tips on how to avoid oxidation when you're dry hopping. One of the worst things you can do to your beer is oxidizing it. In best case, you will just get a hopless flavor. It would actually just spoil the hop flavors. But it won't get stale or anything like that. In worst case, you'll get a purple brownish beer that's overly sweet as well. In both cases, you'll lose all your hop aromas, and that's really a shame because we add the hops to really get those beautiful hop aromas. So I have 5 tips for you to avoid oxidating your beer. Number 1 is what I always do. I use a hop cylinder like this and release it with magnets so it sits inside the fermentation tank. Often I use 2 of these if I have a huge dry hop. And that's really what I recommend for home brewers. You can also dry hop at day 3 or mid-fermentation. That would also scrub out the oxidant. If you use a kvike or something else that has a faster fermentation, of course you have to add it at day 1 or at mid-fermentation anyway. You will still add some oxygen, so it's not optimal, but you will get the oxygen scrubbed, so it's pretty good as well. You can also add sugar when you're adding a dry hop. That will set the fermentation, get the fermentation going again, and will also purge the oxidant. If you're dry hopping at the One of the worst things you can do to your beer is adding oxygen after you have added your hops. And one of those places where it often goes wrong is in the dry hopping. Most people just take the lid off the fermentation tank and add the hops and a lot of oxidant. The best case here is that you just lose hop aromas and flavors. The worst case here is that you will actually get a purplish brownish beer that is overly sweet and has no aromas at all. But the fact is, you will ruin some of the hop flavors. So what I always do, I use a hop cylinder like this and release it with magnets. Often I actually use 2 if it's a huge dry hop. And that's what I recommend for home brewers. It's so easy. You don't have to open anything. You don't risk anything. Number 2 is dry hopping at mid-fermentation. Usually day 3. If it's a quiet yeast, it's day 1. But dry hopping at mid-fermentation will actually scrub out the oxidant afterwards because it's still bubbling away. The downside here is that you have to leave the hops in for quite a long time. They will probably run over 7 days, and after 7 days you will actually ruin the head retention a little bit. So that's not my recommendation, but you can do this. It's still a pretty safe method. And the reason why you have to leave the hops in for so long is you have to have a VDK rest in the end. So yeah. You can also add sugar. That's number 3. You can add sugar together with the dry hop. That will kickstart the fermentation again and will scrub out some oxidant. So you can do that as well. If you have a fermentation tank that allows it, you can purge with CO2. 0.1 to 0.2 bar. So a really slow purge for at least 10 minutes. That will scrub out the oxygen as well. So many breweries use that method. Along with this last one, number 5, use a hop bong or hop dropper or hop doser or whatever you want to call it. It's also kind of a cylinder that sits on top on the fermentation tank and with a little handle so that you can open for the hops and then they just drop in. Of course you have to remember to purge it. Also 0.1 to 0.2 bars for 10 minutes to get all the oxygen out. That was it. This is a really important step that will really, well, raise the quality of your beer and the flavor as well. So yeah, I really recommend you to do one of these things when you dry hop. Yeah, and I guess that was it. If you want to see how I use magnets to dry hop, you can find the video somewhere around here, and also remember to subscribe to the channel. Have a happy brewing out there.